Okay, well, let's have a look at what Father Christmas brought me. We've got a new pyrography machine, and this is a Razertip. The basic difference between this and the Peter Child machine that I've had for a long time is the style of the pens, but it's also got well, each of the outputs for the pens, there's a single plug. I think that's what you call a phono plug, whereas the Peter Child has got 2 plugs in and 2 wires going out, and you can flick between 2 different pens which are plugged in at the same time, and it's quite nice in that when you flick the switch one way, it turns the other pen off automatically, so you don't have one pen still burning, which is likely to burn your fingers because you forget that it's still burning. So otherwise it's the same as Peter Child. It goes from 1 to 10. But the pens, with this particular kit, I bought what was called a starter kit, and I got 4 pens, and each of the pens are complete units. They're not, the nibs are not interchangeable on them. So there's a pen, oops, and you plug it into the unit there with the other end of a phono, and it's got a nice grip on it. It's got ventilation holes here to prevent it getting hot, and it's also got a ventilation like a little slot there that's supposed to ventilate up at the top there and stop the pen getting too hot. So the 4 nibs that came with this, I say these nibs, you can't pull them out. They are, well, they say that they are laser welded into this unit at the top here. So that pen is that pen, and it stays like that presumably for a long time, the way that the manual describes them. Unlike the Peter Child piece of wire, where I have to replace it every couple of hours really, mainly because I'm wearing it away by keeping it sharp. So this is a small ball tip pen, and I've found that this is quite good for freehand, there we go, for freehand writing. So I could for example write my name fairly easily, like using a ballpoint pen. Which I would find quite difficult to do with a piece of bent wire such as I'm used to using. It's not perfect, but I have to say that I've had virtually no practice or use of this so far. You probably can't see here, but it's just ridging a little bit as it goes over the different grain there. So that's the first thing that it will do. So there's a ball, and you can buy different size balls, and I have actually bought a pack of 5, which I'll tell you about in a minute or two. So if we look at a second pen, I can put this into the black here, and this one is the closest to, if we can focus it, closest to what I use with the Peter Child. It's just a blade and it's flat, so you can shade. Well, if I switch it over, you can. There we go. So this is quite a difference for me. This is on 7 on the units on the scale, and normally with my piece of wire on a Peter Child machine I never go above 2 or 3. I'm having to work quite hard to get this to burn, but it has got very, very good control, at least if I'm going in a straight line. So it will cut a line very straight, which I find quite difficult with the Peter Child. Okay, but that's what they call a standard tip. Turn it off again. The third one I got is, turn that off in case I touch it. See if we can have a look at that. It's a razor sharp blade which will actually cut into the wood, and they do sell these for modelling, for carving as well as pyrography, particularly carving wax. So this one, the line that you can cut with it is extremely sharp and fine, but again we are up at 8 here as I'm burning into this wood. So it's a whole different way of thinking about the temperature range. Very, very good, very sharp. It's not good if I'm shading in a letter like this letter I here. It's not good at going sideways, so I've got to turn this round to burn it sideways, and a letter O, which is curving all the time, this isn't the right kind of blade for doing curves. The fourth pen that came with the set is a heavy duty one, so the whole pen is thicker and the nib is a lot thicker, and this is really designed for shading areas. So again, if I put that up, this is a piece of beech, so it's not ideal for, but you can see I can, well, I don't know whether you can see, I can get a very good variation in shading by moving this around. So this will be very good for doing things like trees, maybe skin tone. Okay, and you can still turn it backwards and still get a straight line by using the end of the blade there. Okay, so those were the 4 that came as standard, and as it's Christmas I thought I would get a 5th one. They all come in little tubes, and this one effectively makes it like the Peter Child machine in that it's got 2 screws here, and I can unscrew those and put in any kind of wire, including the wires that I've used with Peter Child machine, and shape to whatever I want. If you don't want to use your own wire, you can buy little razor tips. So there's one here which is I don't know what it is. It should be possible to cut this into a chisel point, such as I use on my old version. But look at the price. It's £5 for a single nib. So they're still going to mount up. But Razertip says that once you've got them, they last. You know, they don't fade away. And then I bought a set of 5 ball tips here, and these are all different thicknesses, and you can see it's still sealed. I haven't had a chance to try those out, but they will fit into this pen, and I'll be able to have an experiment at some point when I've got a minute. So there's the new toy. It's a lot of work to really get used to it and see whether it's worth the money. This unit costs £250, including the 4 pens. A Peter Child with 1 pen is £130. I think the pens are a similar price whether you buy Peter Child or whether you buy this Razertip. And there's probably 100 or 150 different types of tip available. So they're going to make a lot of money out of people if they're charging £5 a tip. Okay, so back to the eggs. What I want to do is, at least the eggs in the collection, is putting a number on the bottom so that I can reference it to the list that I've got, the database. So if I want to put a number on the bottom of here, I do what I usually do, get a bit of water, dampen the wood, find the number that I want, and that's a problem because I can't remember. 41, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 48 this is. So London Plain. Put the number 48 on there, rub fairly hard, there we go, that's nice and clear. I think the camera's back to front, 84 instead of 48, but never mind. It does say 48 when I'm looking at it. So number 48 is nice and clear here on this egg. I wonder if I can change the, let's just see if we can get it to be the right way around. There we go. So that's number 48. But if I'm working with a piece of darker wood, so this is a piece of king wood, lovely wood, apart from it's got a crack in it there which didn't become obvious until I turned it. So it's a bit difficult to be able to imprint this onto the egg. So what I do is I'm going to use a piece of this. This is Sarrel transfer paper, and in fact the Yandles who sell this stuff, or the British agents for Razertip sent me a packet for free. Well, for free, part of the deal. And it's just a blue transfer paper, and I've cut a piece off rather than using a full-size piece. I'm just going to hold that on there and draw the number 47 through it. Could do with a sharper pencil, to be honest. Have I got a sharper pencil? There we go. With a bit of luck, yeah, I've got a blue number 47 on here, which I can now burn. Oh, there we go. So I'm using the Razertip blue ballpoint. I think it's a 1/16 of an inch, just to burn this identification into the bottom of the egg. I mean, to be honest, because it's just a number on the bottom of the egg, I could probably get away without trying the transfer at all, but I do like to use the transfers. It just helps the overall accuracy and look of the writing. So there we go. I'm burning quite a lot in, because when this is sealed and then waxed, it's going to turn a lot darker. There we go. And the blue transfer just rubs off with or without a bit of water. I don't know if you can see the number 47 on there, just about. That's enough for me to identify that as Kingwood. Let's go back to the London plane. Never used London plane before. It's very similar to sycamore. It's got this lovely sort of quilting here, or lace effect, but it's much darker. It's a darker brown. So I've turned this down a bit because I can see what I'm doing, and this is one of the first times I've used this ball nib. It does seem to do the job well for writing. Most of what I do with pyrography is writing, so with this range of nibs that I've got, hopefully I'll find one that is ideal for different sizes of writing. I'll turn it up a bit. So once again, this is on 6 or 7 now, and it's because we're not dealing with thin wire. This is a pretty sturdy piece of stainless steel, and I think it's a ball which has been welded onto the nib holder. So here we go, that's a number 48, which my list will tell me is London plane. Now, as I'm using this and I'm pressing on now, I can feel the heat here, quite hot, but not too hot to hold. So the heat is transferring. I can't feel it down there, but it's not uncomfortable to hold. But there's a number 48 egg ready to go. Next job is the sanding sealer, which is the exciting part because it brings out the colour of the wood. So this is still on London plain. She's soaking it in quite quickly. A fairly open grain, I think. And then I usually just dry that off, and stick it in the egg cup and do the underneath. There we go. And dry the top off as well. I think it's important to dry the wood because otherwise you can get sort of patchy bits. And let's do the same with the kingwood, which I expect to go very deep. Yeah, dark brown. And because of the oily nature of kingwood, it's a rosewood, it's not going to soak in the sanding sealer anywhere like as much as the London plain. So it's staying shiny, it's staying wet. Okay, some lovely almost pinks and black, dark browns. The unusual bit here, and this is where there's been a crack in the blank, and it seems to have well, it's created a dark brown stripe along with the crack, but couldn't see that on the blank before we actually turned it. So the final part of the eggs is to polish them. So this is a bit of Tripoli wax. Finished already. That's before I've even tried the carnauba wax. There's the London plain. Let's put more wax on. Quite a nice finish of patterning. Also got a bit of Coca-Cola here. The kingwood and the Coca-Cola are very similar. Kingwood more of a purple colour. I really don't like that crack that's in there. I've got whole blank, but you can see this is probably what's causing the cracks. But there are cracks, and there's a crack there. There's no idea how deep it's going to go. I suggest it's going to go, but we'll make a couple more eggs and see how they turn out. So we'll now have a go with some white diamond wax. And this is still abrasive, but not as abrasive as Tripoli wax. Faintest of amounts on. Just smoothing it down. Finish off, we've got some carnauba wax. plane. Of course the bolo, I think, is emerging as my favourite.